Peace. Good evening. I'd like to welcome you back to another edition of the Foul Playland. As always, I'm your Foul Player. I wanted to discuss a story that's sort of been in the news, but not really given front and center, and it's regarding an F-35 fighter jet. Apparently, has gone missing this past weekend. And I want to talk about this story because one thing that I do want to cover on this channel is more of like the weird stuff, like stuff that I feel like should maybe get a little bit more relevance as it occurs to the hierarchy of importance of things that you're showing on the news, maybe, or just weird things in general. Like, because a lot of times, since I was a kid, I would notice stories that I thought were like um, far out or like nutty that wouldn't get covered with a lot of relevance. That's how I became interested in like drug cartels and whatnot when I was a kid. I did so, like, that's an example because like when I was a kid, they talked about the guy who was running a Mexican drug cartel and that he could potentially be the richest person in the world at that time, which was the Lord of the Skies. Like, I mean, he had a season attributed to him, the last season of Narcos. I don't know his name off the top of my head. But nevertheless, I found that real interesting. Like, wow, this guy is like the richest person in the world potentially. I mean, that's liquid cash too. Like, it's, that's available to him. And he was getting a little bit of a semblance of news coverage. So I thought that they probably didn't want you to know. You know what I'm saying? Especially, and I thought it was important too at that time because Mexico borders America, and you could safely assume that a lot of those drugs were coming into America. So, in my thinking, like hearing that story, I was young too. I was living on 40th Street in Brooklyn, so I must have been like below 12 years old. And I just thought, like, wow, why isn't this something that they talk about all the time? Like, Saddam Hussein got nothing on this dude as far as notoriety and importance, being that this country that this person was operating from was a border to the United States. So I want to give coverage to things like that on this channel. In addition to giving my take, like politically, what these things could be, what these things could mean potentially. And I haven't been making videos in the last couple of days because my allergies are killing me, as you could probably tell from my face. In addition to, I put a window fan in because it had just finished raining a couple hours ago, and my dog was actually on the mend, and this MFer got like revoltingly sick out of nowhere again. But I also I felt fine this morning when I woke up, and after I put the window fan, this damn ragweeds that I never had a allergy to in the past. Now I'm probably more allergic to ragweed than I was grass, which is my primary allergic reactor, if you will. But let me get to the story. This weekend, like I said, a F-35 fighter jet has gone missing. And that's, if you guys don't know, that jet has stealth capability, which means that it could disappear like to radar. According to the reports that they put out, the fighter pilot who was flying the vehicle or the ship put the plane on autopilot, ejected himself, and then since the jet is still missing or unaccounted for. I have a lot of problems with that story though, because they're not saying like why the guy ejected, the pilot of this vessel. It's just that he ejected and put it on autopilot. Now, if a fighter pilot was having an issue, they would direct that vessel into a safe area and then eject. Like, they wouldn't just leave it on autopilot. We leave it on autopilot to where? Like, do those things have the capability of landing in the original port of entry or whatever when they leave them on autopilot? I don't think so. I don't know what to make of this story. I mean, I do know what to make of this story. Unfortunately, a lot of those things I can't talk about on this platform, but I'm gonna be rough around the edges as to what I think could be happening. One, worst case scenario, that vessel is falling into the hands of the enemies of the United States, i.e., China, Russia, the new bad boy, the new villain in terms of domestic policies, or anybody else. I mean, anybody who has the jet that's not of America could potentially be disastrous. Another far out possibility, which are the things that I like to talk about on this channel, is that that jet could be used to do something nefarious here domestically in the United States. I'm sort of leaning towards that latter option because I don't know. In the past month or so, I just have this ominous feeling that something like really bad is around the bend. You know, even though I discussed the migrant thing at length in this channel because it's close to home. I'm from New York City, and although I do talk, the 45th president a lot on this channel as well, it's also touched upon on this channel at length because of what I do think is coming around the bend. Now, as far as what I do think is coming around the bend, all of it is bad for the most part. I don't want to lie to you guys. Fiscally, the country's doing really bad as far as our finances go. Right now, we're about to hit $33 million in debt. I know we have a meeting in the Fed on Wednesday. They may not even touch on that, honestly. Or they may just try to gloss over it like they've done in the last couple Fed meetings. Even though we're in record debt, the finances of this country, in a major way, affect every country, bar none. Particularly China, whose finances are also in the crapper. No country's really doing well fiscally or financially, and that's in large part because the dollar sucks. Follow that up however you like, because there's always going to be some smart ass that says, oh, the dollar's doing fantastic based on these numbers. All numbers, throw to the trash. The dollar's doing bad. Whether the dollar is doing bad or the finances of the country are doing bad, make an argument for whatever you want. The fact that houses are going up in price, in addition to name whatever commodity, are shooting up in price, is an indicator that not only are the dollar not doing well, but also that the finances of the world are not doing well. Another thing that you guys got to recognize too in terms of real estate is that foreign entities invest in real estate here in whatever country you're at. Canada, real estate to the roof. You got a lot of people from foreign countries, Saudi Arabia, China, that buy a ton of real estate in Canada. Same thing with New York, California. You look into who owns a lot of the real estate, in Pacific Grove, where I used to go on vacation in California. You walk around Pacific Grove and it's a ghost town, and it's because a lot of people that bought those houses are from other countries. These are just pet projects that they have, or God knows what, or they just could realize that the dollars are not doing well and they need a safe haven for their money, i.e. real estate, brick and mortar. But moving on from that, I do know that something bad is coming around the bend, or I just feel it. I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. Not gonna say that it's because of my dreams and nothing like that. I always have dreams though. I've made a video in this past channel. This past weekend regarding having dreams again, and a lot of my dreams always have to do with being in areas that I'm used to. Like yesterday, I had a dream that I was on 46th Street and 6th Avenue in Brooklyn, which I'm super familiar with that block. And that a popular radio station from New York, Hot 97, was running out of the basement in a building in that block on 46th Street and 6th Avenue. This wasn't like the main Hot 97, but it was like a like a weekend edition. I'm familiar with radio too. Also failed to mention that, but I've mentioned that in the past. Like I actually worked for, or had a small show in a small radio station here in Brooklyn for about a year and a half, and it was a college radio. But I know how radio stations work. But it seemed like this dream that I had yesterday was that this really popular radio station, probably the biggest hip hop radio station in the world, Hot 97, was running their weekend show out of this little substation in 46th Street and 6th Avenue, which is one of the blocks I'm really familiar with. One of the blocks that your boy used to get down on. But having said that, I always have these dreams now that I'm in these places and I'm really familiar with. It seems like in a future time, like not present, and that these places are one step away from looking like Mad Max, end of the world, like conditions. I don't know how to explain it. And I just had one of those dreams last night. But that's not why I feel like something bad is coming around the bend. I feel like something bad is coming around the bend. More so because the finances, straight up. At one point, the chickens are going to come home to roost in regards to the finances of this country and the world. So, I don't know. Like, in terms of that, like, other times when those indicators came up to light, like, showed up on the press, those times were followed up with national tragedy that had nothing to do with finances. I mean, there was a story like that around September 10th in 2001 regarding a amount of money that was missing, and then you guys know what followed that. But when a story like a F-35 jet comes up missing, like such a valuable piece of equipment, and it's kind of like glossed over, it just perks my ear up because of the calamity that could be caused with a piece of equipment of that magnitude, particularly if you have all the right ingredients for some big time calamity happening, particularly with finances. If the finances crap out, the country and the world is going to be in for a world of hurt. And I'm surprised that we haven't gotten to that point yet, in spite of the money printing that happened during COVID, in spite of the finances being crappy since 2008. I've always expected for like a financial collapse to be right around the bend, and I'm surprised every day when it doesn't happen. I don't want it to happen, but I know that it's gonna happen no matter what. But when stories like this happen, I always think like, man, it would be really convenient if they used that F-35 in a fantasy world to make something really bad happen, maybe to keep people's attention away from something else bad that's happening. And I want to cover like a lot of those stories. I like weird stories more than anything, especially because of the capability that they do have, like in terms of domestic policy and international policy. But I'm going to leave you guys at that. Maybe I'll go live tonight. I'm going to watch the Browns and Steelers this evening. But let me know what you guys think. Hope you guys had a great weekend. Stay safe. Peace.